Our movie begins with a child named Popper in the year 1970. Popper's father was a ship captain, always traveling, always away from home. He only sends postcards and letters to his son, telling him about the country he was in, the adventures he had. As the years pass, Popper grows up, still communicating with his father without seeing him. 30 years go by and Popper grows older. He becomes a successful real estate broker. He loved his work. He was good at it. He had a job meeting to persuade a man named Gremmons to sell his house to the company where Popper works. So he and his assistant Pippi go to Gremmons to convince him to sell his house. Initially, Gremmons refuses to sell his house because it's the last thing he owns, but Popper doesn't give up and convinces him that if he sells his house, he will be free. He tells him about his father being a sailor, traveling around the world, and shares stories about the sea, inspiring him to dream of becoming a sailor himself and living that dream. Gremmons is persuaded by his words and decides to sell the house to travel the world. Popper and Pippi return to the company and the managers are pleased with him and his work efficiency. They tell him that he will have a significant position in the company, but only if he does one more thing: convince the owner of the Green Con to sell it so they can build something else there. They tell him that Mrs. Selma, the owner, has been offered many deals to sell the Green Con, but she always refused. Popper assures them that he will handle the deal easily. Later, Popper leaves work and visits his children at his ex-wife Amanda's house, asking her to prepare them for a vacation together. When Popper enters the house, his son Billy kicks a ball at him. Then he meets Amanda and they talk. During his visit, Amanda tells him that his daughter Janie is upset and doesn't want to go with him anywhere. Popper talks to Janie and knows that she's upset because she has feelings to a boy who doesn't have any interest in her. Popper tries to console her, but she doesn't accept his words, thinking he is not taking her seriously, and run away from him, entering her room. Popper returns to his hotel room alone, and there he receives a call from his father's lawyer, who informs him of his father's death, his will, and the fact that he has left a box for him. It's clear that Popper isn't affected by his father's death, only has a poker face, an empty soul, and fake sad body language out of an inner obligation that he should be sad as a son. The next day, the box arrives for Popper, and when he opens it, he finds it filled with ice and a penguin inside. Popper initially thinks it's a stuffed penguin, so he takes it out of the box and places it on the table, intending to make a call because he is running late for work. At that moment, the penguin starts moving around the house, surprising Popper when he realizes it's a live penguin. Popper takes the penguin, puts it in the bathtub, adding some ice to keep it cool, before leaving for a meeting with Mrs. Selma to convince her to sell her property. However, Mrs. Selma tells him that the Green Con holds sentimental value to her family and she won't sell it to anyone who doesn't deserve it, leaving Popper disappointed. Meanwhile, the penguin causes a flood in the bathroom, and when Popper returns, he finds himself soaked in water. He tries to contact animal shelter to take the penguin, but no one agrees to take it. The next day, Popper wakes up to the sound of the penguin making noises at him. Frustrated, Popper kicks the penguin out of his apartment, but when he refuses to leave, he spills water and the penguin slips on the wet floor and falls. Thinking he's finally rid of the penguin, he heads downstairs for work, only to be handed the penguin by the receptionist, who informs him that the hotel management doesn't allow animals. Popper takes the penguin back to his apartment and spends time watching a penguin TV show with it, noticing how much the penguin enjoys it. Eventually, a new box arrives for Popper and he expects it to contain a solution for the penguin problem. However, when he opens it, he finds 5 more penguins inside. He spends the day chasing them around his apartment until Amanda arrives with her children to celebrate Billy's birthday. Popper takes advantage of the situation and presents the penguin as a gift to Billy. The children are thrilled and they play with the penguins. Later, a zookeeper from the bird department of the New York Zoo arrives to help Popper with the penguins. He tells Popper that he can't take the penguins now because it's his son's birthday and he loves the penguins. However, he promises to take them eventually. That night, Amanda and the children leave and Popper struggles to sleep due to the noise of the penguins. The next day, Popper wakes up to find the penguins next to him on the bed, following him around everywhere. He puts on a comedy show on the TV and the penguin seems to enjoy it, bonding with him more. Later, Popper sets up the apartment for the penguins, adjusting the temperature and bringing them fish to eat. During this time, Jenny and Billy go to their father, and they all go out with the penguins onto the ice playing soccer together before returning home. At night, Amanda tells Popper that she's been awarded a scholarship and will be traveling for 3 weeks, insisting that the children stay with him. It becomes clear that Popper and Amanda still care for each other. The next day, Popper hires a babysitter for both the penguins and the children, instructing her that the penguins enjoy watching TV before he leaves for work. However, the babysitter accidentally changes the channel, angering the penguins, who attack her. She runs out of the apartment, leaving the door open, allowing the penguins to escape onto the street. Meanwhile, Popper attends a charity event with Mrs. Selma, attempting once again to persuade her to sell her property. The penguins caused chaos at the event. They spilled water so they can slip on. They cause chaos, causing the guests to fall. Then they chase after Popper. He manages to get them into a taxi and back home, with the zookeeper following them to observe the situation. It's evident that Popper has started to bond with his children, listening to Janie's problems and offering her advice. Amanda arrives and advises Popper to listen to his daughter and her problems more carefully. Popper also starts to enjoy the company of the penguins, watching videos about them to learn how to deal with them better. He even starts taking them out with him and his children, and they dance together at home. Later, Popper takes Jenny to buy a dress, but when they return home, they find the penguins laying eggs. Popper calls Amanda in a panic, asking her to come quickly. When she arrives with her boyfriend Ricky, and she tells Popper about her date with Ricky when called her to come urgently. Ricky got scared of the penguins and waits in the car while Popper talks to Amanda, inviting her for dinner to discuss their relationship. During their dinner, Popper's assistant informs him that Mrs. Selma wants to speak with him urgently. Popper wanted to take Amanda to meet Mrs. Selma, but he's preoccupied with Amanda and doesn't want to upset her. Afterwards, they go ice skating and Mrs. Selma sees them together. When Popper returns home, he finds a zookeeper waiting for him, eager to take the penguins. However, Popper refuses to give them up, angering the zookeeper, who warns him that he will take them eventually. Popper then goes with his assistant to buy fish for the penguins, and they fill the apartment with ice to create a suitable environment for them. Popper continues to play with the penguins and his children, and late at night, 2 of the 3 eggs hatch. The next day, Popper gets a visit from his supervisors at home. They're angry because he hasn't been responding to them. When they ask him about the Green Mansion, he tells them he's waiting for the 3rd egg to hatch before making a decision. However, they tell him that time's up and fire him. Despite being fired, Popper doesn't give up. He searches for reasons why the 3rd egg hasn't hatched yet, following all the instructions with no success. Feeling overwhelmed, he contacts the zookeeper to take the penguins because he feels he can't care for them properly. Then he returns home. Later, his assistant informs him that Mrs. Selma will hold a conference at the Green Mansion tomorrow and he must attend. When his children return home, they're upset that he took the penguins to the zoo and they get angry with him. The next day, before going to the conference, Popper finds a letter under his table from his father apologizing for not being there for him and advising him to stay close to his children. He admits that he couldn't find a wiser animal than the penguins to send him. This deeply affects Popper, and he decides not to attend the conference. Instead, he takes his children to the zoo to retrieve the penguins. On the way, he calls Amanda, asking her not to travel and to join them for a romantic date. Amanda agrees and they head to the zoo together. At the zoo, they search for the penguins but can't find them. They are told by the zookeeper that the penguins have been sent to different places. Suddenly, Popper hears the sound of his penguins coming from the refrigerator. He finds them inside and lets them out and puts the zookeeper instead and locks them in. After that, they went to the toy store in the zoo. During that time, security took the man out of the freezer. The zookeeper asked them to look for Popper, his family, and the penguins, accusing them of kidnapping the zoo penguins. Before they got caught, Pippi pretended to faint to distract security. Popper, his family, and the penguins ran out of the store and locked the door behind them. But they discovered a penguin was missing. They found it on top of the building wearing wings it got from the toy store. The penguin then flew with the wings to Popper's car. Next, Popper went to the conference at the Green Inn and heard that Mrs. Selma was going to sell the hotel. At that moment, Popper intervened and told her not to sell the place because it is historic and because it holds many memories for her. Then the zoo man entered with the police claiming that Popper had stolen the penguins from the zoo and wanted to keep them in his house. Popper explained that he didn't steal them because they are his and that the penguins came back with him because they loved him. The zoo man tried to lure the penguins back with fish, but they chose Popper over for it. At that moment, security took the zoo man away. Mrs. Selma then told Popper that she would sell the green con to him. His bosses asked him when they would start demolishing the building, but he told them that he wasn't going to demolish it. Popper kept the place as it was, took the penguins back to their natural habitat, and reunited with his family. Popper learned a lesson from the penguins: family comes first. And that's it. If you like this recap, hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep seeing content like this one. If you have any requests or thoughts, drop them below in the comments section, and we will see you at the next one. Peace out!